Tomorrow is the Thanksgiving holiday in the US, and I'm going to read all of these books. I'm kidding, I'm not going to read all these books. But I wanted to go through the 5 books that I am most thankful for. And these are not necessarily my top 5 favorite books or anything like that. But these are books that I'm so thankful exist. I'm so thankful I cross paths with them and that they have become a part of my life, honestly, because all of these have really impacted me. So let's go through them one by one, and I am putting these down because this is a heavy stack of very big books. First up is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. I've talked about this book before, although it's been a little while. This book really got its hooks in me early and just has stayed with me so completely throughout all the years since. And I think I read this, I don't know, probably maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I don't remember when it came out, but it's been a long time before the movie came out. And then I also really kind of adore the movie, warts and all. But what I love about this, in addition to sort of the inventiveness of the structure of it and the way it was written across these different time periods, is really what it says about humanity. I align with a lot. And there are just passages from this book that have affected me and the way I view the world. And what more can you ask for? Then there's House of Leaves. I cannot believe this book is almost 25 years old. That just blows my mind. I read it way back in the day. I am a big fan of Poe, who is the sister of Marzi Danielewski. Really loved her music. And I just adored the Haunted album that tied in with this. And that's really the reason why I first read this book. And of course, House of Leaves has gotten quite a reputation over the years. It intimidates a lot of people because of, the unique formatting and stuff that goes on. But what really stuck with me is I wasn't a big horror reader when I read this. And this book scared the living hell out of me, like in a really kind of beautiful, deep-seated way. I don't know if it was something about the moment I was reading it in. Part of me never wants to read this book again, not because I don't want to, because part of me does, but that experience was so special and so specific and has stuck with me and really kind of opened me up to reading more horror, which now, I write horror. So yeah, this had a pretty profound effect on me. Then there's The Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. I read this almost 20 years ago. I read it not realizing that Parable of the Sower existed. I kind of just picked it out at random. I was taking a sci-fi class in college, and I just could not believe the depth of writing, the depth of feeling, the power of words that Octavia Butler is able to summon. It is breathtaking. It kind of just reconnected me with the power of words because I had taken a long break from reading, mostly because I was just working a lot since I was 14. Basically all through college, I was just working, in addition to school and various other activities. So I just didn't have a lot of time for reading for a very long time. But I got back to it. And this is one of those books that really sort of unlocked for me how powerful it can be. It is beautiful. I need to read The Parable of the Sower soon, and I'm going to reread this. And I got a couple of Octavia Butler's other books that I haven't read. Kindred is amazing. Octavia Butler is a once-in-a-generation talent. And she is celebrated, but I don't think she is celebrated enough because I think she is incredible. And then I have this humongous weapon of a book. This is The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. And this is a funny one because if I were to have just been left with the way I was taught Shakespeare, as I think many people in the US certainly are, I would have hated Shakespeare. I was so bored. I just, I liked the movie. We watched, Romeo and Juliet, and I did enjoy that to a certain extent, as much as you can on a VHS in a tiny TV in a classroom. But it really was Patrick Stewart, honestly. I was such a huge Star Trek The Next Generation fan as a kid. And of course, he is an eminent Shakespearean actor in addition to being Professor Xavier and Jean-Luc Picard. And honestly, it was, the times that Shakespeare was quoted in Star Trek, and then Patrick Stewart himself, and some of the different performances of his in Shakespeare that really started to unlock it for me. Then I went to Stratford, Ontario with a creative writing class when I was in high school, went to the Shakespeare Festival there, fell completely head over heels. And I know that there can sometimes be this sort of pushback when someone is so ubiquitously popular like William Shakespeare. I was just laughing because that seemed like an understatement. But when he's around so much, there's kind of that inner feeling of like, I don't need this, popular, bleh. He's not so great. But I really think Shakespeare is great. I think what he captures, the wit in which he captures it, the insanely just dirty at times. I don't know. I think he's amazing. And I love having this huge book. I've not read all of this book. And then there is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I read this when I was a teenager. When I was a little younger than that, like maybe 10 or 11, I read The Chronicles of Narnia. Love those books. And then this kind of felt like a graduation because Narnia really introduced me to the worlds of fantasy literature, which I still adore and I still love. But Lord of the Rings was really the book that just kind of pushed me over the edge because I read Narnia and then I read The Hobbit, which I adored as well. And then this just bowled me over about the possibilities, about the world building that could happen.